Evening, everybody. Tonight I'm going to be doing 6838 Butterick. It's a nightgown, and I'm doing number C, just because I want like a little sleeve on it. Now this will have some lace and eyelet, and I don't know how much of the lace I'm going to put on it. But I'll tell you when you have to put the lace on if you're going to do that. This takes lightweight broadcloth, cotton flannel, satin and eyelet. I was going to use my gauze, and then I was just trying to find something else. I really want to keep my gauze for my shirts. So I found, I don't know when I got it, but it is 100% cotton, but it feels like linen. So it's really, really soft. And I'm not a pink person, but that's what I had. So, but it's really soft. So I think it's gonna work out. Now this has some gathering we have to do. You have to put some interfacing on your yokes and easing of the sleeves. So it's pretty basic. This pattern has you going from one view to the other view. So you gotta really be careful. You know, to have like view B, and then it would say view C is the next page. And so you just have to be careful when you're doing it. Okay, and also when you purchase this, be sure I got the extra small to medium. And then it goes large to, I think, 2X or something like that. So just be sure you get the right size, because I first looked at it and I was like, man, they sent me the wrong one. They sent me an extra small, but it is extra small, small, medium. Now I'm making the medium. I know it's probably going to be a little bit too big for me, but I rather have it be bigger as a nightgown than smaller. That way I have room to move around in it. So the first thing you need to do is and I'm doing C. So the first thing you need to do is put some interfacing on one of your number 3s and one of your number 4s, which I just did that. And I'm using my heat pin, so I have to mark as usual. So the first thing we're going to do is gather the upper edge of the front between the small dot and the large dot. So I have to mark mine, and then we'll gather that. So, and we have to do that to the back also. So let me get mine marked and get the camera set right, and I will be right back. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is in the middle, you will have a dot. This is your big dot, and you want to reinforce that. So from an inch to the dot, and then from the dot and up an inch, just reinforce it. So just stitch. I know this is going to be kind of big on me, but oh well. Okay, so I went about 3/8. It's hard to see it, but I just went here to here. And I did about an inch. And that's just going to reinforce this neck. So we have to gather now from the small dot to the large dot. Now I'm gonna do it in 2 sections, and then I'll cut my string, and then I'll come back and do the other side. Now this is my front piece, so I'm gonna be putting a safety pin in my front piece, just so I know it's the front piece. Okay, so I'm not gonna be using my gathering foot tonight, just because I know the material's a little thicker, so I'm not even gonna bother with that. I'm gonna use my butcher twine. Right here. And then just make a zigzag stitch. And up close to the edge. So you want it starting at that dot. And just come about like this close. You don't want to go like 5/8 or something. You want to have it pretty close to your edge. So I'm going to sew it down to this dot, zigzagging. Then I'm going to cut my string, and then I'm going to start back again and come to the large dot. And that way you'll have 2 points of where, you know, you can gather. All right, so let me get this done. And I make my zigzag maybe about 2.2, and I might make it just a little bit larger. All right, so let me get this done, and I will be right back. Okay, once you get your front done, get your back, and you're gonna gather the same way between the notch, and then it'll have an arrow here for whatever size. So I'll mark this, and because this is a straight shot, I'll probably just do it in one section. Now, I know this is going to be way too long for me, but that's okay. I just planted another pecan tree today, so I'm hoping in a few years I'll have some pecans. So here's the mark right here. I'm doing medium. So I'm just going to mark that on both sides. If I can find my pen again. I keep losing them. Okay, and do the same thing and gather from this dot all the way to this dot. And then put your machine back to its regular setting so you don't start sewing with it zigzagging. Okay, get your front and your back, and you're going to sew them at the seam, side seam. So match your notches. Yeah, this is going to be way long for me. All right. So match your notches and then sew both sides together, your front and back, at 5/8, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to take my pinking shears and I'm just going to trim a little of my side seams and then I'll open them up. But I'm just going to get my pinking shears. And I only take like half of it off. So just go down your sides. And then open them up after you're done cutting them. Okay, so the next thing you're gonna do with your front, now you're gonna have some marks here. And you have a notch. So pin right in the middle. And then gather up your front and pin it. And try to get it as even as you can. Where did I put my pins? I keep losing everything tonight. I was out in the sun too long today. Okay, you're just trying to get it to be a nice, even gathering. So I got a mark here and a mark here. Bargy, watch your mouth. Sorry if you heard that. He's got a potty mouth tonight. Okay, then come back over to your other side and gather that up. This is going to be a little bit heavier than what I wanted, but oh well. It'll still work for winter. Okay, here's your notch. So pin that to this notch. And then just gather this up. I have to gather a little bit more here. I'm stuck on a little spot here. And I don't want to break it. There. Okay. So find your notch and pin that. And be sure your edges are even. And we have to do this with the back also. So just get those edges even. Okay, and then come back over where your dot is and match that up. Okay, and then just get that kind of even. And then we're going to baste this. Okay, so see when you open it up, it's going to give you kind of like a little V. Okay. So now we have to baste this. I'm going to have to cut some of this length off. It's so long. So just look on your back and just be sure it's a pretty even gathering here. And then I usually just will pull it a little. Okay, so now we're going to baste this side up. Now go from your dot to the big dot and baste that. Okay, so let me get my basting. Okay, and just use one strand of thread. But be sure you get that dot because that's where you're going to pivot. So when you're sewing, you want to be sure you have that. So just start at the first dot. I use a half moon needle. It just helps going through it easier. Okay. So get this all basted. And then we can either do the back or we can sew this. Okay, so get this done. Okay, this is all basted. So I'm just going to take my pins out, except that one where the big dot is. I'm going to mark that. Because that is my center right here. And that's where you're going to pivot. So you'll come down, you'll come all the way up here, and then pivot, and then sew all the way down. All right, let me get that done. See, that's how it'll look. It kind of gives you that V look. Okay, let me get this done. Sew a 5/8 all along till you get to this dot, then pivot and come back this way. Once you get to that dot, pivot and put your hand under here and be sure, one, your basting thread is out of the way, and two, this is laying flat. And then continue. Okay, once you have that done, you can take out your basting thread. So you can take out the gathering and the basting. Okay, there's my basting, and then the gathering. And I keep my basting thread, or my gathering thread. I have a little jar with some extra elastic, but then I have basting thread, or gathering thread. That way you don't waste it. All right, let me get this. I might have sewn a little onto it, so I might have to cut this. Okay, you want to press this seam upwards. I think my iron's off. So press this. And then get your number 3. And you'll see where it says placement line. This is where you're going to put your eyelet. So I have some eyelet. I got it for something. And you're just going to draw your line. Let me get this ironed up. Okay. So just match your top piece right here so you know where the eyelet's going, because that isn't sewn yet. So that's how you can figure it out. So it's right there. So I'm gonna put a dot here. And then I'm gonna put a dot in the middle. Then I'll come back around and put that right where it should be. Okay, and a dot here. So I know I'm putting my eyelet going this way. Now they have some eyelet also. It says once you put the eyelet on, you can put lace through. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna use this. I wanna use this stuff up. So, get that little pin out of there. And it should be like an inch and inch and a quarter. So that's what I have. So you're going to sew this onto this. And just match your dots that you've made. Okay, so let me pin that on. Then I have to change my thread. But there's my dot. I'm just going to keep a little off because there's some tape on this. So just kind of eyeball it. You just want to be sure that you have it going down to this dot here. And then just pin away. Okay, let me get this done. And I'll show you what I have at the end. Okay, and that's what it'll look like. So let me sew this on. I got to change the thread and bobbin, but it just makes it look a little bit fancier. So let me get that done. Okay, so this is what you should have. Okay, now we're going to gather the back the same way. So you'll have your dots your middle spot and your, I think it's just gathered all the way back. Is there? Yeah, just all the way back. So with right sides together, the piece that does not have the interfacing. So just mark where your center is. Let me get the camera down. So that's my center. So here's my center. And let me just put my little marks on this piece. I'm going this way, let me go this way so I see it. Okay, pin. So you have a dot here. And flip it around. And a dot here, and that's your center. Okay, so let's pin the center back. And then gather this to this dot over here. Get this started. And then you're gonna baste this and then sew it. If you feel comfortable without basting it, go ahead. So there's my dot right there. Okay. Here's my dot. And just be sure this is pretty even and right up to the edge. Try to get that to be a nice gathering. And then pin it, baste it, sew it at 5/8. And your back does not have the lace on it. So just get that nice and flat. Okay, let me get this done. Okay, and again, sew this at 5/8 and get your hand under there. And be sure this is nice and flat. And don't forget to put the right color thread back in after you sewed your lace on, if you did. All right, so sew that up. Okay, and this is what you should have on the back. So now we're gonna sew our shoulder seams. This thing's gonna be huge on me. So match your notches, and this is a 5/8. So just match those up and sew them up. And then we'll start working on the other yoke with the interfacing on it. Okay, so get this sewn up. Okay, go ahead and just open up these seams and press them. Okay, if you're doing the no sleeve, that's where your bias tape will come in for the underarm. I'm doing sleeves. So the next thing you're gonna do is at the shoulder on your pieces that have the interfacing, sew the shoulder seams together and then open them up. And then what we're gonna do is turn 3/8 of this under, and that's gonna be the inside for the nightgown. While you're doing that, I'm gonna get a fresh cup of coffee, and if you could please like, share, subscribe. If you haven't, it's free. It will help the channel. And if you want to jump over to the special video for the free pattern for the month of July, just in comments, just put me. I'll put your name in the basket, and July 1st, I'll draw a name and I'll send you out a free pattern. So I'm gonna go get my coffee and I'll be right back. Okay, after you get your shoulder seams stitched, just open them up. Now grab yourself a little ruler, because we're going to turn under 3/8 over here on both ends. So let me find a little ruler right here. Okay, let me get to 3/8. And just start turning under your edges. Now this one, we're gonna have to slip stitch our ends to the nightgown. So get both edges done. So get your nightgown with the right sides together. You're gonna pin this yoke. All the way around. Sorry, my bird's starting to go off. It's almost his bedtime. So match up your notches, or your seams. And then just pin around. He's being crazy tonight. Okay, so get this all pinned around. Okay, and on your corners, put your pin sideways, because this is where you're gonna pivot. So just make a mark. So when you start sewing down, you'll stop and pivot. You have a couple notches, and you have your little V right here. So just match up everything. here's my corner. Just be sure you get those corner. Here's my dot right here. So I know I'm going to pivot there. So put your pin sideways. Okay. Then at 5/8, you're going to sew all the way around. After you're done, your dot is right, your middle dot is right here. And what you're going to do, you're going to cut to that dot. Don't hit your seam though, your seam where you sewed your seam. So, but in that middle, you want to cut it, and you want to cut here and here, so it will make a nice square. So just take your time and sew this up, and I'll be right back. When you get to your corners, I usually back stitch just a couple times just to be sure. And then just pivot and start again. Okay, so at your corners and that middle, just cut a little. So you get down to about that dot. And same over in the middle. And that's just going to help this turn and be a nice square. Now what I'm going to do is take my pinking shears, and I'm going to go around and trim all around my neck. So if you have pinking shears, you can go ahead and do that. It'll just help it a lot better turning. So I take just about half off. And just be sure you don't cut your nightgown. And then we're going to go over and do the roll method and turn this inside and get this nice and flat. Okay, so if you've watched my other videos, the roll method, you're going to turn this inside. You want this nice and flat. Okay, so your roll method is you try to roll to get this seam right on top. Now, if you can't get it, you can take a pin and you can put it in there and kind of pull up just a little, and you'll get that seam on top, and press it. Okay, and then just keep going around. Oh, there's my pin. Keep going around, and then the next thing we'll do is we'll baste all this together, the armhole, but then we'll slip stitch this down into here. So let me get this done. Okay, oops. And then when I'm around my armhole, I pin this just so I know it's staying straight. And I have that seam just right. And then just keep going around. Okay, so get your basting thread and be sure these ends right here are turned up. And all this is nice and straight. And you're going to baste along your armhole right now. And then when we get that done, we're going to slip stitch this inside right near this seam. Now, if you want, you can trim some of this off. I probably will. Where the gathering was. But then we'll tack this down. So let me get my armholes basted, and then I'll be back. Okay, before I tack this down, the yoke, I'm gonna go around like 3/8 and just kind of make it look tailored a little bit more. But this is what you should have. So I'm just gonna go around here 3/8 and just put a nice stitch on it. And then I'll come back and we will slip stitch the yoke down on the front and the back. And then I gotta get my bird to bed. So I'll probably just make like a little part 2 of this. It's just the sleeves and maybe the hem. And I think I might just put like, I don't know, maybe 6 inches from my hem up. I'm probably just gonna, I have enough of that lace. I might just go around that just to kind of make it a little bit fancier. But let me get this done and then we'll slip stitch this. We can trim some of this off and we'll just slip stitch this down. So let me just get this done. But if you want to do that, I'm doing it just at 3/8, just to kind of give it a nice little seam look. And, you know, if you get to your corners, don't forget to pivot to, you know, to kind of make it look tailored. Okay, and that's all I did. I just went around 3/8 just to kind of make it look a little bit more tailored. Okay, so what we're gonna do is slip stitch the front and the back. I'm gonna have to cut about 6 inches off of this thing. Okay, so right in here, you can cut some of this. Just be careful, don't cut your nightgown. So be sure everything is pushed down good. And just kind of trim some of this off. And then we'll come back and be sure it's pushed up. And then we'll slip stitch this. And I think after that, I have to go and get my bird to bed. So I'll get this done, but I'll stop right now. And, you know, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment, thumbs up. I'll make a little part 2. It won't be that long. We just have to put the sleeves on and hem it. And if you want to put a little lace on the bottom, you can. So I will just finish this part up tonight, and then I'll come back in the morning and finish up. So you all have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow.